Okay, so annotations part 2. When you're looking at your source analysis, there's a few key things that you need to consider, and I've got some example handouts at the back of this PowerPoint to help you with this. Really importantly, we need to be using the words of research properly. So we need to be thinking about what validity means, reliability, credibility, authorship, expertise, currency, those sorts of words that are very, very specific in source analysis context. So when something is valid, we need to make sure that we are talking about the data that is a valid representation. If you cannot remember what the words valid, reliable, etc. mean, there is information in the Year 11 teaching booklet about this, and you can access this both in the library and in the Study and Learning Centre as well. Please make sure that when you talk about these various aspects, you're actually going into detail to really express that you understand what these research words mean. It's one of the critical factors between getting a really high grade and getting an average grade, because often moderators will see that you're just kind of interchanging the words when that's not actually how they can be used. Do definitely think about the type of source and the specific information that's being conveyed. So if you're looking at a newspaper, who is the publisher? What issues do they have? A Fairfax media publication has a very interesting bias usually. Is it a left-leaning author? Is it a right-leaning author? What are their motivations? What is it that's made them want to actually publish this source? It's also important that you're thinking about the way that sources can be manipulated or changed. So for example, Wikipedia, notorious because everyone knows you can just update it yourself, but there is some merit in it for background research when you have the understanding that Wikipedia actually staffs about 1,000 people to go through and source check. Now obviously there's like billions of articles on Wikipedia, so it's not going to be perfect, but it can be justified as a good starting point if you needed to find out new terms or something like that. So that's the type of nuanced analysis we're looking for. Don't just tell me something's good or bad, because nothing is ever good or bad. There's always levels of good or bad. When you're thinking about your sources, well, think about the audience. Who was it created for? Particularly if you are looking at a primary source or a example of a source that was not intended for you. So if you're looking at a brochure that you pick up from the doctor's clinic, who's that for? What are they trying to do? What sort of purpose does it have? This really influences how well you can use the information. So for example, if something's published at the doctor's office, you're probably expecting that it has been checked by medical professionals and has information that is not only relevant and clear, but is designed to educate. In that case, you can feel quite happy about that source because it is obviously going to be more reliable information because the authors are credible. They know what they're doing. They're experts, that kind of thing. So please make sure you're really considering that. The second thing is that with research, you need to show breadth and depth. So one of the best ways to do this is to consider the range of possibilities of research, but also to consider going deeper into the sources. So a really good example would be that you might find that your mum knows someone who you can interview. And that's really good because that's going to make your life really easy. Is it breadth of research though? No. What it is that you need to show us that that person has a purpose. So a better way to organize an interview would be to go online and read an article. And as you're reading that article, you might find that they mention an organization or a person or somebody in particular who can be useful to you. So you Google them and you find out background research about them, and you find out that they work at a particular university, and then from that university you get their contact details. Then, on that university page, you find out the work that they've published, you find that work, you read that work, and then you actually interview them about their work. Now, that is a far deeper understanding of research because it's not just picking someone randomly, and that's how you really get up to that A+ level. Obviously, that's not always achievable, and it is about being resourceful. So try your best, but if you can't get something like that, do try to think about, even if your mum is going to help you organize your interview, what could you do in the background to actually make your interview questions really good? What could you do to justify the use of this person? Can you find out their background? Can you find out work that they've done? Can you possibly find interview questions that are based on other sources so that when you're asking them things, it's not just random questions or your focus questions, but it's actually something that gives you really nuanced information. Okay? So source analysis is stuff that you guys did when you were doing humanities courses across the various classes that you've taken over your time here. So these are some questions that you might want to think about and especially justify why it's a problem. So if you are using an expert source, it is going to be far more educated. It's going to have a range of things in it that are far more useful to you than an amateur source. And you need to really be able to discuss why, because for some particular purposes, amateurs might be completely useful. If you're trying to get personal opinion, it makes sense for you to actually discuss this with your friends and family. But if this is an issue that they know nothing about, how is it possible that this can actually happen? You can't actually take a survey of people if they don't know anything about it. So what is the usefulness of that? That's what you're going to need to think about. One of the big ways to really think about a source is to cross-check it. Now, I can't stress enough the importance of showing cross-checking because this is a far more sophisticated skill than just a normal source analysis. In fact, it's the sort of skill that we'd be expecting to see at a high level. It's a sort of skill where you look for similarities or trends. You look for things like correlation or causation of data. You're looking for things like patterns across things. So what are you noticing coming up in multiple sources? Or what are things that you're seeing haven't actually arrived? What are the gaps? And in particular, what are the things that are missing that you are noticing differences between? This is what's going to really help you come to your own conclusion. When you're annotating primary sources, there are some particular things that you need to really think about. So I'm going to talk about them in the next video.